Alright, Texas. Texas, we are heading to the exciting land of the West. Alright, so Texas is going to create some issues, some problems, and controversy. And we will cover some of that right now. Alright, so this is the United States in the year 1840. So 1840, all the red, these are the states, and blue are territories. And the other major colors there you see are green and orange. Orange is Mexico. Mexico, and the green, as you can hear the bell, is unorganized territories. So what's going on with Texas? Well, first we have to get to the Mexican independence. So Mexico used to be what was known as New Spain. It was a colony of Spain. And in 1821, it gained its independence. And the man, and you can see in the front of this image, his name is Miguel Hidalgo. He was the kind of main leader of the revolution for independence, and was a priest. Interesting enough, the day that we often associate with Mexican independence, or many people falsely associate with it, Cinco de Mayo, is not in fact the Independence Day. Independence Day is September 16th. Cinco de Mayo, on the other hand, celebrates another battle, actually against the French. So Mexico has won its independence. So 1821, the country is now really trying to become stable and figure things out. So one of the first laws that Mexico passes is what's known as the General Colonization Law. And one of the problems that Mexico is having is that a lot of their settlements are being attacked, namely by the Comanche native tribes. And the belief then becomes, if there's a lot of colonists in the area, then these attacks will be less likely, as people could fight them off. So they open up settlement in Mexico to really anyone. It's for any person who wants land, namely. And individuals, they were given a great deal of land, 11 square leagues, which is about 71 square miles. And this land could be used for grazing, for farming, and it also sets up towns and other things. So since there's a prospect of free land, and a lot of free land, a number of American citizens head over into Mexico to claim this land. And as you can see, there's this illustrated image of settlers being attacked by natives. Certainly there were attacks going on by natives, but for the most part we have thousands of settlers who are settling, especially in what's becomes known as Texas. So by 1830, so 9 years after independence, 1830, there's about 7,000 foreign-born residents, with only about 3,000 Mexican residents. And this is the map here. If you look, Texas is that number 1. So these are the United States of Mexico. And the settlers, for this free land, they just had to follow some rules that were set by Mexico. And alas, for many people, the rules are not particularly followed. One rule that Mexico quickly decides to implement is that slaves are not allowed in their territory. The Mexican settlers or the American settlers of Mexico from the United States, they do not particularly follow this, and in fact bring in a great deal of slaves, over 1,000, which angers the Mexican government greatly. In addition, the Mexican government doesn't tell anyone they have to practice Catholicism, but it is the only legal religion in the country as well. So no other religion is allowed. Since the settlers of Texas refused to follow either edict, either law, some clashes then begin. So, Texas Revolution really starts in 1835 when Mexican troops attempt to take a cannon from the Texas settlers, which results in this fantastic flag, "Come and take it." The man attempting to stop these settlers from really having their way in his country is this man, General Santa Anna. And Santa Anna is really trying to get his country back from people that have been invited into his country and refuse to follow the rules that were set for them. This Texas Revolution, as it becomes known, the biggest or most famous battle today is the Siege of the Alamo, where Santa Anna's forces end up killing all the 200 defenders and take over the Alamo. It's fairly short-lived, as Santa Anna is later captured, and he signs a treaty which ends the war and creates what's known as the Republic of Texas, which is essentially a kind of independent state, country. It's an independent country that exists in North America. So, Republic of Texas, while they're enjoying being an independent country, the settlers of it are, yes, they're from the United States. So they are petitioning the government of the United States to annex it, or bring it into the U.S. as a state. This creates a great deal of debate among, namely, politicians in the U.S., but this man, James Polk, becomes president while this debate is going on. James Polk is one of the more fascinating presidents in U.S. history. Even though you might not agree with his policies, there's no denying that he was one of the most successful and effective presidents in history. In his campaign, so he's running for president in 1844. In his campaign, he makes 5 promises. He's going to acquire California, settle a dispute in Oregon. He's going to lower the tariff, going to establish what's known as a sub-treasury, and he's going to retire from office after 4 years. He promises not to run for a second campaign. By the end of his time in office, he has fulfilled every single one of his promises. He's also, as you can see by this image here, the first American president to be photographed in office. So James Polk, he wants to expand the country, and he believes that, yes, the United States should annex Texas. So in 1845, shortly after being elected, the United States decides to add Texas as a state. Mexico, being annoyed and quite not okay with the United States taking their land, declares war, and the Mexican-American War ensues. Mexican-American War lasts about 2-3 years. Well, 1 year and 9 months is the exact number if you're keeping track. And after the Mexican-American War, it results in what's known as the Mexican Cession. And it cedes all of these territories that are in white. So Texas, New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, California, and Arizona. Later, shortly thereafter, there's what's known as the Gadsden Purchase, which is in brown there, where the United States purchases that rest of Arizona and New Mexico that is currently part of the United States today. So the Mexican-American War ends up, and we're going to talk about a bit more on Friday, ends up really expanding the United States, but is not without debate, without controversy. But what it is not without is denial that it helps expand the United States. From this first map we looked at in 1840 to just 10 years later, the United States suddenly is in its current for the continental United States territory. It has all of this territory that is now its own.